Welcome to the Motion Church podcast, your weekly dose of teaching, faith, and inspiration. Every Sunday, we delve into the Bible to uncover its relevance for our lives today. Whether you're on the train, cooking, or just relaxing at home, grab your Bible, your coffee, or whatever you need, and let's explore the depths of living life with God together.
I want to start with some very wise words from a very wise person who once said, because I've got to have faith. I've got to have faith. I've got to have faith. Baby, if I could. Oh, sorry, I needed to stop there. That was George Michael. If you didn't know the reference. No, the sad thing for me about that song, that verse actually, is that those might have been the wisest words seen individually that he ever spoke during his life without maybe knowing it, without intentionally knowing it, which is a little bit sad. But faith is something difficult. It's something difficult to grasp. I started by saying, I don't know what the correct English term for it is, but it doesn't make sense. You can't have faith to get faith, right? That doesn't work philosophically. That doesn't really make sense. How do we bring these things together? Faith is a difficult thing to grasp. It's a difficult thing to understand. And you hear it used very often, especially here in church, you hear it very often. And they say, you have to keep the faith, be strong in faith, walk in faith. But what is it then? What is this faith? How do I keep faith when things are really difficult? Is there something like blind faith where I can just blindly believe and everything is supposed to come right, where we just hand everything over to Jesus? Pastor Chris talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where he said there's mainly two camps. There's two groups of people. Where one group of people would say, you just have to believe, just believe, hand everything over, just enough faith, just bigger faith, more faith like a mustard seed, more faith, and it'll be fine. And the other camp says, yeah, but I've got to do my part. I've got to do something. I've got to act me. I have got the ability to change a situation as well. I've got to do something. Where do those two things meet? And that is something I personally struggle with very, very much. I'll be honest, I'm more in this camp of try to figure it out myself. Say, but I can do this. And if I'm not doing my part and it's not working out the way that I want to, it's probably me. And when it really doesn't work, when it really hasn't come out successfully, then I start praying. Then I'm like, God, can we have some of that faith now maybe? Can we try some of that faith stuff? Because I've heard that works. But some of you might be in the other camp that says, and that's great, that says, Lord, it's all at your feet. I lay it all down at your feet. It's not me, it's you. You can fix this total situation. And just like Pastor Chris said, I think we need a little bit of both. Let's dive a little bit deeper into this text. There's really a lot to unpack. So it's only going to be a 2-hour and 40-minute sermon if you can start warning the Dutch people coming to the next service. Let's look at this verse again. You're more than welcome to put it up on the screen again. So, the disciples are sitting in the boat. An image appears walking on the water. This is already mind blown. We don't know what's going on. He comes and he says, it's me, it's Jesus. And I want to say, here is where we enter the scene along with Peter. Here is where we enter the scene along with him. Peter starts like so many of us. Lord, if you give me just the sign, if you tell me that I can do it, then I can do it. If you tell me that I need to go down this road, then I can go down this road without a problem. Then I know it's going to be perfect and it's going to work so well. And Peter starts that way as well. He says, and it's something miraculous that he's asking for. It's not something small. It's not just a change of direction. He's saying, Lord, if you tell me to come, I'm going to be able to walk on water. So Peter already has quite a bit of faith going here. But he says, Lord, I need you to start this for me. I need you to tell me that I can come to you. And often I see this in my own life as well. If we've got big decisions to make, a lot of you sitting in this room aren't necessarily from the Netherlands. Maybe you moved here from a different country. You had a very big decision to make. Are you going to do this? This is maybe one of those times where you say, Lord, if you just tell me, if you tell me exactly where I need to go, if you tell me that the Netherlands is where I'm supposed to be, then I'm going to be there. Then I'm there in a heartbeat. Right? But it doesn't always work that way. It doesn't always work that way. But I think that Jesus gets that. He knows that we struggle with this. He knows that we have this need to get certainty, to get confirmation that it's going to be okay. And it's great for me how Jesus responds to Peter. He just says one word. He says, come. He didn't give exact instructions. He didn't say, okay, so Peter, what I want you to do is left foot, slowly, out of the boat, because the water is really rough right now. So, slowly, left leg. We're going to put it down. You test the surface. If it gives way a little bit, pull back a little bit. If it's holding, you can go forward. There we go. Peter, you've got this. Next step, let's go. Okay. That wasn't how Jesus did it for him. He just said, come. Jesus gave him just enough so that Peter could get out of the boat. Just enough. Esther, a couple of months ago, gave a fantastic message about this as well. We sometimes want Jesus to be like a GPS, to tell us exactly where to go. Turn left at the following corner. Then, if you've passed the McDonald's, you've gone too far. Go back slightly. But Jesus is more in the business of, I need you to take a step as well. I need you to take a step. And he just gives us enough to say, okay, I'm going to help you over this little hurdle, but then I want you to come. And he says, come. So Peter takes the first step. And he had to do this himself. He had to decide whether he's going to or not. At that point, he could have just said, no, too scary. I don't think this is a good idea. Jesus, if this is a test, I failed. I'm going to stay in the boat and I'll be alive for a little bit longer. Maybe I can try again in a couple of weeks. But Peter took the step. Peter took that step. And that, I think, is an important thing to note. There was movement from Peter. He had to make a decision. It wasn't all just faith and blindly believing. He had to take something to actually put it into action. I've heard a great metaphor for faith versus hope versus certainty in a bungee jumping rope cord. If you're about to jump off a bridge with a rope tied against your feet, tied around your feet, and I've never done this and I'm not planning on doing this because I love my life. But you can stand on that bridge and you can look at the rope and you can inspect everything, all the cables, the harness that goes around your feet and the safety cables and the backup thing and the carabiners that are locked into each other. You can check all of them. You can check them 5 times. You can check them 50 times. And you can say, we've tested the weight strength of this rope. If I jump, I only weigh 85 kilograms. I'm going to be fine. The rope should hold. I shouldn't go too far. You can calculate all of this and think, yes, okay, I know that it should work. It should be fine. When is the moment that you actually know, yes, that rope holds? It's when you jump. Yeah. When you take that leap and you jump, it goes over from just a theoretical knowledge, and yeah, I think it can work. I think I can walk on the water, to I know I can walk on the water. I know this rope is going to catch me. So faith is an action from our side. The second thing that stood out for me in this so much was that Peter was walking towards Jesus on the water. Water is becoming more and more difficult for me to say if my mouth is dry, I realize. He was walking towards Peter on the water. And he was focused on Jesus, and his first steps were successful, and he was focused on Jesus. But then the verse says, but then he looked at the wind, and he saw the waves. And it was a storm that was raging. They were afraid just moments ago. They thought it was a ghost coming across the water. People can't walk on water. It's a ghost that's walking across the water. It's this storm. This is probably the end. And now he loses focus. His focus shifts away from Jesus, and it shifts to the storm. It shifts to the wind and the waves. And all of a sudden, he starts sinking. that is such a great metaphor for us. When I said we are part of this story, we are in the story, it's because this is such a beautiful message that aligns very much with our own lives. And I can give my own example of this as well. When me and Karin just got married, we were only married for about 4 months or so. Her mother passed away. She got sick very suddenly, and a couple of months later she passed away. So we were just married, honeymoon phase, all happy. I married a beautiful, happy, bubbly wife. And if you know her now, you know she's a beautiful, happy, bubbly person. But at that point, that she was so close to her mom, and her mom passed away. I often say this, I'll be honest, that we say from here. We should be honest when we stand here. If I reflect truthfully on that moment, I looked at it and I said, is my wife ever going to be the same again? Obviously, I was sad as well. I was devastated, both for myself and for my wife and for our future kids, that they would never get to meet their grandmother, who I know that was such a big thing for Karin. And I was looking at my wife, who was just completely devastated and broken. And I was looking at that situation, and I was thinking, is it ever going to be whole again? Is it ever going to work again? Am I ever going to get my wife back again that I married, that I decided to marry, or did everything just change? Like, yeah, this is where the vow that you say when you get married through sickness and health and good times and bad times. I'm like, but 4 months, Lord, can't we just wait a little bit before we test that one? It was not easy. But if I look back, our focus and my focus was so much on the waves and the storm and the wind. And I lost sight of Jesus in that time. It was difficult for us just to go back to church just because it was painful. Her mom was a big believer as well, and we often went to church with her. It was a difficult place to be. It was sad, not because we were angry at Jesus, but it was just too many emotions. But our focus wasn't so much on Jesus, and maybe couldn't be blamed at that point. Maybe it's human and it's natural. But we took our eyes a bit off Jesus, and we were just focused on this pain. We didn't know how is the rest of this going to work? How the next 40, 50 years, God-given, how is this going to work? How is it going to play out? And then this verse continues. When Peter started doubting, he started sinking into the waves. He started sinking into the water. At that point, that must have been a cold, sinking feeling that he had, literally. And he must have thought, wow, what did I do? And he starts sinking, and he cries out to Jesus. He cries out to Jesus, Lord, save me. And Jesus, immediately there, reaches out his hand and pulls him back up. Absolutely beautiful. So in the pain that me and Karin went through, and that she went through, and I was kind of not a supporting actor, but in a supporting role in that time, we slowly but surely started finding our way back again. One of the things that we realized was just because you believe and you have faith in God and you have faith in Jesus, and that faith doesn't mean everything is going to work out the way that I plan it, the way that I think it's going to be. So I had a picture in my head of our kids playing with their grandmother one day in the future when we were going to have kids. I had these pictures. Karin had these pictures. This was the image that we had. And whether it was supposed to play out that way or not, I don't know. And that's not up to me. That's up to Jesus and up to God. But he said, I can do something with this pain and suffering. I can do something beautiful with this. Just give me the chance. I didn't say, follow me, come onto the water, so you could have your plan executed. I said, come and follow me because I've got a plan for you. And it's a beautiful plan. I want to show you this plan. But it's so lovely to know that Jesus is there in that moment when you are sinking. When you are sinking and the waves are just crashing over you and the wind is way too strong and it's a storm that you are living in, that Jesus is right there. But again, there's action that needs to be taken. Peter cried out to Jesus. He cried out to him in that moment. Said, Jesus, save me. Just pull me up from this. And Jesus did. It's reassuring to know that Jesus is there for us in these toughest moments when we see everything falling to dust and crumbling around us, that he is there. All we need to do is reach out. And all we need to do is reach out with the faith that he is going to do something great with this. And I might not know exactly what it is yet, but he's going to do something amazing with this. I don't want to skip over the last part of it. Because the last part of this verse, Jesus gives a response to Peter as well. So Peter just started sinking. He pulls him out of the water. And this might be creative license that I'm taking with this message. But if I close my eyes and I look at that image, I almost see Peter kind of sheepishly looking at Jesus like, okay, I know, sorry. Yeah, sorry that you had to jump in there. Next time is going to be better. Maybe we can practice on a little pond next time instead of big storms. Then I have more faith. Then I'll have more faith in that. So I'm seeing Peter kind of, oh, thank you, first of all, but yeah, sorry that you had to save me. And Jesus responds to him, and in my mind's eye, I see Jesus looking at him and saying, oh, you of little faith. You of little faith. I've almost got the feeling that Jesus is sadly, with sadness in his eyes and sadness in his demeanor, saying, oh, you were so close and you lost faith. And I'm not sad because I had to save you. I'm here to save you. I'm going to save you. I'm going to die on the cross for you. I'm going to die on the cross for you, and I'm going to save you in a way that you don't even understand yet. This death that you would have suffered sinking into the water, that's nothing. That's earthly. I'm here to save your soul. And I'm going to do that irrespective of whether you deserve it or not. Whether you all I asked is that you came in faith. And I'm thinking that Jesus was looking at him saying, I'm not mad or angry at you that you didn't get it right the first time. I'm sad. I'm sad that you looked at the waves and you looked at the wind and you looked at the storm and you thought that's more powerful than what I am. You lost focus for a moment and you thought that storm is more powerful than what I am. And there's a couple of examples in the Bible where Jesus then just stills the storm, just to put a full stop behind it. Like, that's how I do it. Still. If I say it's still, it's still. So let's bring it back to today. It's difficult for us to think about walking on water and we don't want to grasp this really. It doesn't make sense to us. Let's bring it back to today. So I gave an example of our life just getting married and this difficult period that we were going through and how we were focused on the waves and the storm and the wind instead of how God is greater than all of this. There's a fantastic message that Don also shared a while ago about praising God for what he's going to do, even before he's done it. And this tied in so beautifully to that for me. He said, Lord, I don't know how it's going to turn out, the situation that I'm in. I don't know how we're going to recover from this. I don't know what's in our future. I don't know if we're ever going to be happy again. I don't know if our marriage is going to be the same as what I thought it was going to be. I held on to Jesus in that time, definitely, and support from family and friends. But it was still very, very tough. But at the end, I had to come to the realization that even in this, God is bigger than this. Even such a traumatic event, God is bigger than this. So, let's get back to our first question. What is faith? I've given you that you need faith to have faith. That without faith, you'll be faithless. I hope a little bit of that makes sense now. Faith is stepping into action as well. It's believing that God is going to do something miraculous with this, and I need to take a step into it. That's why it's called a step in faith. You take a step in faith. So faith is not a blind hope. Faith is not just a wish into the sky. It's not anything can happen. There is lots of purpose behind faith. There's lots of action in faith. Faith is a choice, is what I want to share today. Faith is a choice. And sometimes it's one of the most difficult choices that you can make. When everything around you is telling you, yeah, faith isn't going to solve this problem. What you need is to think about the problem more. Sit still in a room, think about it, analyze it, plan it. That's me. That's me in this corner of the equation. Saying, Barend, you just haven't spent enough time thinking about the issue. If you analyze it enough, you're going to be able to fix this. But then I get to paralysis by analysis, and nothing ever happens. But the other side as well, which I'm a little bit less familiar with, truthfully speaking. I'm a little bit less familiar with this side that can easily hand it over and just say, God, at your feet, do what you want to do. God, move around me. Move in this place, and you stay still. You don't take a step. So faith is a choice. It's an action. It's a step. You need to have faith to get faith. Some of us, faith will stay this elusive thing. Faith will stay this non-reachable element where you can't hand over completely. If you don't make a decision about it. If you stay in the same place and you do the same things over and over again, nothing is going to change. You've heard the definition of insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, but expecting different results. And I've been there, which slightly qualifies me to talk about the subject. I've been there, and I've had times where I've prayed for the change. I've prayed for something different to happen, but I was doing all the same things. And looking back at those moments, I still have them once in a while. I believe there are actually moments when Jesus was just saying, come. Just saying, come. Stop planning. Stop trying to figure it all out with your own perception and your own idea of what's going to be perfect and how you think the world should be. Just stop for a second and come. I've heard your thoughts. I've heard your prayers. Now trust that I'm bigger than this. Now trust that I'm bigger than this situation that you're facing, bigger than the uncertainty, bigger than the doubt, bigger than the pain, bigger than the suffering. Take a step. And I want this to be more practical and not theoretical. I want this I want you to have the same feeling or experience that I had. We said while I was holding back and asking God to move and say, God, just please move, and change these things. God was standing on the other side and saying, Barend, just move. Barend, just move. Just take a step. Take a change. I've given everything that you need to make the next step. Find those points where Jesus in your life is saying, come.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's Motion Church podcast. We hope that today's message has encouraged and inspired you. Much of our content is free thanks to the people who support us financially. If you would like to contribute, go to motion.church. For more, visit our website and follow us on social media for the latest updates. Until next time,